Entrepreneur Association, and I'm so excited to be joined now by Lara Morgan, who is the founder of Company Shortcuts. She started her first business when she was 23, which was Pacific Direct, which she sold her majority share for 17 years later for 20 million. So she's an incredible person. I'm so excited to have her here. Lara, thank you so much for joining me.
You are welcome.
So obviously today we're going to be talking a lot about sales and how people can be better at doing sales, because obviously it's an area that people generally tend to be not so great at.
Yeah.
But before we get into that, I think it would be really great just to talk more about you and what you've done and your experiences and how sales have really helped you to build successful businesses.
Yeah, so characteristically, I would suggest that as a child, they never beat out that inability or that ability of me to become humble or shy. So as a child, I guess I was pretty confident, and I hadn't realized actually what a huge asset that is. I think maybe my parents taught me to use manners and to be a little bit more tactful as I grew older. But ultimately, I think I was born in Germany, traveled to Hong Kong, grew up in Hong Kong, so I was in a very enterprising culture, and I had to learn, also traveling to a boarding school in Scotland, how to find my own way in life, and that's both literally and physically, in terms of, I went to school at the age of 11 to a boarding school in Scotland, traveling quite literally half of the way around the world. And, that experience meant that I had to learn to ask uncomfortable questions, and whether that would be actually in the dark of the underground at 6 o'clock in the morning, trying to fight my way through to Victoria bus station to get a bus up to Scotland, or, that sort of humanity of having to deal with strange people in strange places, really gave me a platform. And actually, when my dad then went bankrupt when I was 18, I had to get a job. And ironically, I was given an opportunity to do sales. So it was, one of those just ridiculously lucky, and I do believe, I guess, in serendipity moments or chance. And really, I never looked back. So my first job was selling giveaways and promotional items in Hong Kong, where we sourced them in China and we sold them to major organizations. And I did that at 18, and I did that for 3 years. Then I sold Yellow Pages advertising space, quite oddly, in the Middle East. Not everybody's cup of tea in terms of a working environment for women, but again, what an amazing experience to be one of the few, inverted commas, sales women. I was in quite a senior role. Again, more luck than judgment, I got the job, and I ran a sales team of 126 salespeople speaking in a number of languages, 17, I think, across 6 countries. So you can imagine, age 21, what a baptism of fire that was. I survived that job until the Gulf War came. Literally, I was on the last plane out of Bahrain, and by hook or by crook, a few months later, I ended up in UK in 1991, in the middle of our last major recession, needing a job, and there were none. And that's when I began Pacific Direct, age 23, with an absolute deep cluelessness, as perhaps the video will show you, in terms of no plan, not really, no idea, no vision. So all the sort of things that everybody today talks about as the norm, and actually I think they use it as a procrastination platform. And that then led to me building a 7-year career selling soap for a living. And again, at the heart of that business was sales. So without, any messing around and, the discussion about which comes first, the chicken or the egg, the fact is that unless you have a purchase order in a business, you have no business. That's how I feel.
So it's obviously, you mentioned then, obviously, when you started Pacific Direct, you didn't really have a vision, you didn't have a plan or anything. And I think there's quite a lot of people out there who probably take a lot of comfort in that, to know that even though you started with no real plan, you managed to build it into such a successful business.
Yeah, no, but I think a lot of that is, so do some of the basics right, which is talk to as many people as you can, and sometimes you're going to fall flat on your face. You might have to learn with the perfect humiliation of not knowing enough and looking a bit like a fool. But if you're prepared to, be humble and ask people's help, you'll be gobsmacked about, the amount of help you'll get along the way. So all this discussion about mentoring and all of that help, I think, is enormous. But you don't need to formalize it. It can be, in my case, I literally begged the one of the senior sort of grey-haired guys at my hockey club who knew about recruitment when I first wanted to employ people. I said, Brian, how do I go about this? And he ran a recruitment company. And actually, in the end, Brian was mayor of Bedford. And when I was in tears or at the end of my tether, I would call Brian at the end of that long, miserable day when everything had gone wrong. And he'd say, is it time for a glass of cold white? And, he kept me going. So from time to time, I try and offer a glass of cold white to various young entrepreneurs to do my payback for Brian. But I think some of the most basic premise things is that, first of all, if you can't establish that you can sell your product to somebody and there isn't a market and you haven't done your homework about market experience, then you don't have a reason to set up a business. So you don't actually need name cards, and you don't need a website, and you don't need anything. You don't need a warehouse. Many, many businesses are going far too far along a road without discovering will it sell. Mm. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, definitely. So obviously within Pacific Direct, like you said, a lot of the success of it was down to the fact that you were able to sell so well.
Yeah.
Which is an area I think people forget about. Like you said before, a lot of people get so carried away in making their websites look pretty and having nice business cards, and then they forget to spend their time on possibly the most important part of the business, which is selling what it is they have to sell.
Yeah, I mean, when I speak publicly, I keep challenging people to look at themselves, and they, when they say to me, it isn't going as well as I hope, I say to them, well, of the 9 hours in each working day that you could be reaching the customers, because some get in early and some get in late, how many of those hours are you spending reaching the customer and selling them your product? Because if you're not spending all of those hours at the beginning, because actually that's what Saturdays and Sundays are for, they're for admin. I think too many people still think that you sort of go on Dragon's Den and somebody gives you some money and you build a business, and it's absolute rubbish. I think you need to be customer facing and mostly listening, not talking, because again, selling comes from delivering the solution to a problem that somebody's looking for. It doesn't come from just ramming down someone's neck your great idea, even if they don't need it. You can't sell something long term and build a business that there isn't a need for, because people won't order it again. The market won't grow. So I also think that fundamentally that sort of cold calling preparation and the discovery of is there a market, boring though it might be, it's fundamental, and actually it will save you a fortune. I mean, people that go and sell their homes and back their ideas and develop their products to the most ridiculous level without establishing the market are frankly in need of a lot more help than I'll ever give them.
So obviously with the magazine, you're going to be doing a 7-part series all about selling. So it'd be interesting to go through what those 7 steps to selling are.
Okay, well, I mean, people call them different things, but actually I learned these from the formality of an amazing Canadian operation called Bell Canada, who were the Yellow Pages of the world originally. And in the 7 steps, I'm going to be taking each stage and trying to give people some of both my experience, some of my anecdotes, some of the ridiculous mistakes that I made. But ultimately, it starts with cold calling and preparation. It starts with then, actually being on the buzzer and learning to do your sales pitch right so that you can get the appointment. And then at the appointment stage, you're sitting in front of somebody and you're going to and it's a choice, you're either going to introduce your business and your product, which I would advise to leave second out of these 2. Because actually, if you fact find a bit more about the company, and you can't assume you know everything from the website, but my God, is that an advantage from when I didn't have that opportunity to troll on the website and to learn what I could learn. So in effect, you're having now that engaging conversation where hopefully you're asking the kind of open-ended questions to the customer to discover what they're looking for, and is your product suitable. You then introduce your business and your product, and by the way, people will always buy from the person first, the product second, and the organization third. So, concentrate on the important stuff. Clearly, in that exchange of conversation comes what's called objections or hurdles. So that's your, next stage of this game, if you like, which is, as somebody says, well, what I don't like about this product is, you are going to have to be able to overcome or respond in a way that convinces the customer, if it is the right product for the customer, and you're learning that in this exchange, actually, maybe they haven't heard you correctly, maybe they don't understand the full features and benefits of the project, of the proposition. that at that point, you're talking to them about the advantages of why, and you're trying to overcome those hurdles. So far you've done, some preparation and introduction, some fact finding. You've had sort of proposal or recommendation, but actually, truthfully, at that point, you make a formal, hopefully, quotation or offer. And very rarely does that all happen in one lovely, cohesive, every phone call worked. So there's also learning the skills about patience, which I hope to put in, and the resilience piece and the tenacity piece, and some of those nightmare skills that actually make money. Being able to pronounce someone's name right, properly being able to get through the sodding barriers, and they don't. People are there to protect people so they can get their job done. So finally, you put in your proposal, and then hopefully you're going to get your way back in the door. So some tricks of the trade as to how to do that. And ultimately, in the end, once you put in a proposal, what you're concentrating on is asking for the order. And this is where women experience fall down so much more than men, and it drives me nuts because we do all the wonderful work, we relationship build, we're extremely approachable, we go out of our way to service the customer, we give much more than the other people do, that's the other ones, the blokes, and then we forget to ask for the order. So I think that's a critical thing, and this is where, having come into the real world, having concentrated on Pacific for 17 years, because you don't make money overnight, I'm horrified at the lack of confidence and the lack of time people spend on giving themselves sales skills. So this is the asking for the order and then getting the close. And then after the close, the deal is not done until you've collected the money. So I really want to give some stage play over the coming months, which I hope can really impact people's ability to go through a process and appreciate that it is a process, and to refine the process and to learn some tools around it, and then get better at it and then practice it. And then I suggest to everybody to go down to a library, because in every library and every shop there are books on how to sell. I still read them. I'm not perfect, and we're all learning. So I hope that sort of outlines part of my passion for getting ladies to sell more.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited about it. Obviously, you're going to be sharing loads and loads of advice that's to come in the future issues of This Girl Means Business. But just finally, what would be your top tips as an entrepreneur with so much experience? What would be your top tips to aspiring entrepreneurs?
I don't want to say this in a blasé way, but hard work pays dividends, and it isn't, again, this enterprise gig. It is, I don't think I'm any more intelligent, any more knowledgeable, or any more advanced than anybody else starting up a business when I was starting up a business. But I think you can learn by being hardworking and in that hard work, being in all the places you can be to sell, meeting all the people that are going to help you along the way. And the more available, inverted commas, in the right way you are to grow your business, and to have the humility to ask for help and to listen to the help and then to apply it. So I think hard work summarizes an awful lot of that potential, because all I've done, I sold my business when I was 40 and I still owned 99% of it. All I did is listen to the advice I had, work double as hard as the other buggers, and keep listening and keep learning and keep applying the good stuff and making good judgments. But by working hard, I did my research, I learned to believe in my gut feeling because I did my homework around that stuff. And so I guess hard work, if that's the most pathetic answer you've ever had, it's very powerful.
Okay, well, I'm very, very excited for the 7 series you're going to be doing. It will be available in thisgirlmeansbusiness.com when that's out. But Lara, thank you so much for taking the time today.
You're really welcome. Nice seeing you again, Karen.
Thank you.